So someone's version of events is about to be contradicted by evidence, and the text carrying that evidence will arrive like a grenade thrown into carefully constructed fiction, not gently, not gradually, just explosion that leaves no room for continued pretense. The game they've been playing is ending, not because they chose to stop, because they're about to be stopped, exposed, caught, revealed in ways that make denial impossible and defense look pathetic. The story they've been telling, unraveling in real time as truth does what truth does surfaces, despite every effort to keep it buried. Let me paint what the end of deception looks like. Every lie has architecture, foundation of initial untruth, supporting beams of follow up lies needed to maintain the original, decorative details added over time to make the whole structure look legitimate. And the person who built this particular structure thought it was solid, thought they'd covered every angle, thought they'd accounted for every variable that could expose them. But lies are inherently unstable. They require constant maintenance, constant vigilance, constant energy spent remembering what you said to whom and making sure nothing contradicts. And eventually, always, eventually, something slips, someone talks, evidence emerges, the architecture collapses under weight it was never designed to carry. That collapse is approaching. The text that's coming carries the weight that will bring everything down. Maybe it's screenshots, proof of conversations that contradict the story you were told, evidence of double dealing, documentation of someone being in two places at once, metaphorically promising commitment here while pursuing options there. Some people are sloppy with their deception. They forget who they told what, mix up their stories, leave trails obvious enough that anyone paying attention could follow them. But others are meticulous, careful, strategic about compartmentalization, and their exposure doesn't come from sloppiness. It comes from someone in their circle deciding truth matters more than loyalty to lies. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, what version of reality are you living in that might be about to shatter? Maybe you've been told you're the only one, that they're committed, that they're invested, that what you have is exclusive and special and protected. And maybe you believed it because you wanted to, because the alternative, that you're being played, that you're one option among many, that their words and actions don't align, was too painful to consider seriously. But the text coming will eliminate the maybe, will provide concrete evidence that what you were told and what was actually happening were different realities operating simultaneously. Or maybe you're not the deceived. Maybe you're the one who thought you were getting away with something, who thought you'd successfully balanced multiple narratives, who believed compartmentalization was sustainable indefinitely. And the exposing text is coming for you from someone who has receipts, who kept evidence, who's tired of watching you operate without consequence. Some people expose because they're vindictive, want revenge, want to watch the person who hurt them face consequences. But others expose because integrity matters more than comfort, because letting lies continue unchallenged makes them complicit, because silence in the face of deception is its own form of betrayal. This reflection invites you to consider, if you received proof someone was lying to you, Would you want to know or prefer ignorance? There's something specific about how it all started reveals. The beginning holds information about intention, about whether this was accidental entanglement or deliberate strategy, about whether someone stumbled into deception or architected it from inception. How it started might reveal premeditation, that this person approached you or approached multiple people with calculated agenda, that the charm was performance, that the interest was strategic. That connection you thought was organic was actually manufactured. Or how it started reveals opportunism, that this person wasn't planning to deceive, but when opportunity presented itself and truth felt inconvenient, deception felt easier. And that opportunistic choice, that initial moment of choosing comfortable lie over uncomfortable truth, created momentum, made the second lie necessary to support the first, made the whole structure inevitable from that first compromised moment. Some people never intended to be liars. They just made one choice that required supporting lies, and then more lies, and then so many lies that coming clean felt impossible because the accumulated deception was too shameful to confess. The exposing text might contain the origin story, the receipts from the beginning, the evidence of when and how this whole construction started. And seeing the origin will recontextualize everything that came after, will show you that moments you thought were spontaneous were actually calculated, that feelings you thought were genuine were actually performed, that the relationship you believed in was partly fiction from day one. This reflection invites you to consider, would knowing how deception started make the betrayal worse or just more understandable? Let me describe how it will end looks like. It ends with exposure that can't be managed away, with evidence that makes gaslighting impossible, with truth so clear that even the most skilled manipulator can't reframe it. And the person being exposed will attempt damage control, will offer explanations that minimize or justify or shift blame, will make you or whoever's confronting them feel crazy for being upset about something they'll try to make seem insignificant. You're overreacting. You're reading into things. That's not what that means. You're taking it out of context. But when the evidence is solid, those tactics fail. When screenshots exist, when witnesses corroborate, when timeline contradicts their story, no amount of skilled deflection works. So it ends with them facing choice. Confess fully or double down on lies that no longer hold. Take accountability or burn everything down trying to maintain fiction that's already exposed. Some people, when caught, come clean. Finally, exhaustedly. They're almost relieved the performance is over. They confess not just what they were caught doing, but everything. Use exposure as catalyst for honesty they should have had from beginning. But others go down fighting. They admit only what they absolutely have to. They minimize what they can't deny. They attack credibility of evidence or person presenting it. They make themselves victims somehow in situation where they're clearly perpetrator. And how they respond to exposure tells you everything about whether they're capable of change or just capable of better hiding. This reflection invites you to consider, when someone's exposed, does their response matter, or is the exposure itself enough to end it? There's something important about what you need to do when the exposing text arrives. First, read it completely before reacting. Don't respond mid-read. Don't fire off messages based on partial information. See the full scope of what's being revealed before you decide how to respond. Because sometimes the beginning of the expose seems manageable, explainable, and you might rush to defend or minimize before you see the extent of what's actually being shown. Second, verify if possible. Screenshots can be manipulated. Stories can be exaggerated. Make sure what you're seeing is actually what it appears to be before you act on it. But also don't let reasonable verification become excuse for denial. Don't require such high standard of proof that nothing could ever meet it. Sometimes verification is just excuse to keep believing comfortable lie over uncomfortable truth. Third, decide what you need before confronting. Do you need confession, apology, explanation, or do you just need to be done regardless of what they say? Because confronting when you don't know what you need often leads to being manipulated into accepting explanations you shouldn't accept, into forgiving what shouldn't be forgiven, into staying when you should go. Fourth, prepare for them to make you the problem. When people are exposed, they often attack the exposer. Make it about your snooping or your insecurity or your jealousy rather than about their deception. Don't let that deflection work. Stay focused on the actual issue, what they did, not how you found out about it. Let me address what happens after exposure changes everything. Relationships built on lies don't survive exposure well. Once you know you've been deceived, that knowledge contaminates everything. Every memory gets re-examined. Every sweet moment gets questioned. Everything they ever said becomes suspect. And they might promise to rebuild trust, might commit to transparency, might offer access to phones and accounts and schedules as proof they've changed. But trust rebuilt after betrayal is never the same as original trust. It's more fragile, more conditional, more work. And some people discover they simply can't do the work of trusting someone who proved themselves untrustworthy. That's not failure, that's just honesty about capacity. Some broken things can't be fixed. Some relationships can't survive certain betrayals, and that's okay. You're allowed to decide that exposure is ending, that knowing what you now know makes continuation impossible, that you'd rather start over with someone who hasn't lied to you than try to rebuild with someone who has. You remain in complete control of what you do with exposing information. You can forgive or end it, demand changes or walk away, give chances or protect yourself. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has activated anxiety about what specific text might be coming, or recognition that you're the one about to be exposed. Maybe dread, maybe relief that lies are finally ending, maybe determination to prepare for impact. Whatever it is, honor it, take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If you received exposing text about someone you trusted, would you confront them or just leave silently? Drop it in the comments. And this: is someone's response to being exposed more important than the fact they deceived in first place? Game over, you're about to receive an exposing text showing how it all started and how it will end. And the ending is collapse of carefully maintained fiction. Is truth finally asserting itself after being suppressed? is consequences finally catching up to actions. The text is coming, the evidence exists, the exposure is inevitable, and how you respond, whether you're the deceived